Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss on the topic SAC model. A SAC model is a representation. It's a representation of business data. Now, this data normally comes from your ERP systems. So we can import the data or it can be live data. Now, the structure of the data model has got dimensions and measures. Mainly, the model consists of dimensions and measures. Normally, these dimensions will store the master data, and measures will store your transaction figures or values. Is your transaction values. The structure of SAC model is like a star schema. So star schema means the model looks like star. Why do we call this a star schema? Because normally we have a transaction table and we'll have some dimension tables. We'll have some dimension tables. And these are known as dimension tables. So this is also dim. Dim means dimension table. And these dimension tables will be connected to your fact table. Okay. Now, when you see the type of models, there are two types of models. One is analytical model. And another one is planning model. The main purpose of analytical model is to store the actual transaction data from your ERP systems like S/4HANA. After storing it, we are going to read the data, read and analyze. Whereas in planning model, we'll try to load the actual data from your S/4HANA, and planners can input some planning data based on the actuals, right? Budgets, forecast, can be anything. So they can read the data, analyze the data, as well as write the data also. So it has got a write feature. So this is only for reading the data and analyzing it, and planning model is for reading as well as writing the data. In analytical model, one dimension is mandatory, that is version dimension. So version is mandatory. Whereas in planning model, two dimensions are mandatory. One is your version, another is your date dimension. In analytical model, date is not mandatory. Okay, only one is mandatory. Whereas in planning model, again, date also is mandatory. So this is the dimensional differences between your analytical model and planning model. So we'll see the practicality also along with the theory. Fine. So let me log in into my SAC account. Expand the navigation bar. In order to create a model, we need to go to modeler. So we can see that this is a model and this is your live data model. So whenever you want to import some data into the model, then we'll go to the model here. Start with the data, start with an empty model. So we'll go for start with the empty model and click on create. Now we can see that as by default, it is taking this as a planning capabilities. You can remove this in order to make it as an analytical model. And as we know that version is mandatory, but date is not mandatory here. So I can just go for deleting this dimension if it is an analytical model. Let's create one measure. So a measure name is, say, for example, amount or revenue. And I'll give the description as revenue. We'll keep this decimals. Okay, fine. Aggregation type. Let me keep it as sum. Let's come down. The unit, I'll make it as currency. Decimal places, I'll keep it as 0 for the time being. Now I have a measure. This is what we call it as a measure. And there is a version dimension. Let's save it. So this I'll call it as a. So within this, let me create one folder. For example, E2 Tech. Underscore project. And within this folder, I'll make this as analytical model. And click on save. So you're taken version dimension and minimum one measure is required for creating your model. So as this is an analytical model, if you want to display this in a star schema model, so come to this model view, go to list. Instead of list, we can show this as a graph. Now this is your data foundation. Okay. In BW, we call this as a fact table. And there is a measure. And there is a version dimension, which is linked to your data foundation. Okay. Let me go to this down. So this is the structure of your analytical model. Bare minimal structure, that is version and data foundation. Then let's go back to your modeler. Within the modeler, let's try to create one more empty model. So by default, it is taking this as planning capabilities, version and date. By chance, if I try to delete this date, and now we'll try to create one measure as revenue. Fine. In aggregation type, I will take it as sum. Now we can see a warning here. The following objects are missing in your model. So planning model needs at least one dimension other than your version. Fine. Say for example, other than the version, if you take it up, and let me take this as a organization, and I'll take this as cost center. Click on add. I'm taking the organization as cost center. And if I try to save it now, I'm trying to save this under my E2 Tech planning. So it's a planning model. When I go to your date settings within the section of time and planning, the date dimension is mandatory, right? So without date, we will not be able to create your planning model. So there should be a dimension which should be of type date. So there are two dimensions which are mandatory. That is your version and date dimension. So let's create one date dimension. This, let's take it as date. Now click on add. And this date dimension, if we go to the date dimension, so after creating the date dimension, you can go to the dimension table and we can see that the data has been populated from the data is populated from the data is populated from 2026 to 2027. If we want the data to be generated from 2025 and just enter, and only thing is you need to click on refresh it. I click on refresh, you'll see the data generated from 2025 Jan to December 2027. And there are some properties which are created automatically. Okay, they are generated properties. And there are some hierarchies also which are created. So year month hierarchy, year, half year, month, then half year, quarter month, and year, quarter month. So these hierarchies are created or generated automatically for a data dimension. Now we can save the model. And display this as a graph. And let's take this. So within analytical model, version is mandatory. So within planning model, version is mandatory. And the date also is mandatory here. So the two dimensions which are required, that is your version and planning. So normally in the analytical model, what we do is from S4HANA, we'll try to import the data into the version. That is, we'll try to load mostly your actuals. So what we bring from S4HANA, that is your actual data into your analytical models. So version, it will be actuals. Whereas in planning models, we try to load the data or import data for version actuals. And based on the copy of actuals, then we'll go for budgeting. Then after that, forecasting, planning, right? So we'll try to generate a copy of your budget, plan, and multiple forecasts. Next session, we'll dig deeper into your planning model. Thanks, everyone. See you.